All right, guys, it's 9:05. We're going to go ahead and start the session. I just want to thank everyone for coming today. Go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Miracle Franks. I'm a senior at Gravette High School. I'm a student host today. I will be moderating the Q&A at the end. We're going to have about 30 minutes for presentation time and 20 minutes of Q&A. I'm going to ask the teachers to collect questions over the course of presentation and type them into the chat, get them from your students or from yourself. Our presenter today is going to be Miss Giuliana Tartarini from Walmart. She's a human resource manager for Walmart Transportation. Miss Giuliana, please take it away.
Good morning, everybody. How are you? I am Giuliana Tartarini. Thank you so much, Miracle, for the introduction. I'm the HR manager for the transportation office, and I am very excited to be with you here today. I'm very thankful that Jerry Price invited me, and let me tell you a little bit about me. So I moved to United States in 2003 when I was 23 years old, and I was born and raised actually in Lima, Peru. I'm Peruvian. I'm Peruvian and Italian descendant. That's why the name and the last name, how it's written. And yes, my first language is Spanish, so I do speak Spanish. And when I moved here, I was moving because I was needing to help my mom. We were having a very rough time in my country. And per culture, sometimes some of the cultures, when you're the oldest child, which I am, you are the next one in line to help your parents. So I had the opportunity to come to the United States, and I took it without knowing how difficult it was going to be, right? When I was in my country, I will study Spanish as a second language, but obviously the language was taught to us by a Peruvian teacher. So we learned it with an accent. And when I got here, thinking that I will be able to at least pass by, it was very difficult because I couldn't understand some of the stuff due to the accent. It took me a while, and because of that, sometimes I felt that I couldn't get the job that I wanted. So I started researching to the local opportunities or organizations to see where I could get help, because at the time I wasn't making much money. I was working odd jobs. Some of those odd jobs were like either cleaning houses, or I remember one of my first jobs in a food business was Brahms. I worked in Brahms for a while, frying hamburgers. I was in the grill side. But I keep thinking that I was not tapping into my maximum potential. In my country, I had the opportunity to get a business degree. It was an associate's degree. And I wanted to work in an office here. At least I wanted to start doing that. But I couldn't because of the accent. So I started looking for places that could provide ESL classes, which means English second language. And I will take classes here and there. But since I was a little bit advanced as I took some classes in my country, I was not able to improve my conversation, the accent, right? How I will pronounce some of the words. So because of that, I kept searching for different places until I found the community college, Northwest Arkansas Community College. They were providing night classes. So I will take my classes after work. And I was able to, I will say polish, because I cannot get rid of my accent. Not that I want to, but I was able to polish it so it was more understandable to everybody else's around me. That helped me to find my first job, which was, I was an administrative supporter for Department of Human Services. And that job helped me to build on different other jobs that I had through my career. So yes, I worked for DHS for 2.5 years, and that provided stability. And I was able to learn a little bit more on how society, jobs, and everything works in United States, right? After that, I was able to apply for another job. And it was my first HR role. I was an HR assistant. I didn't know anything about HR at the time, but I knew about administrative support. So I started working with them. My manager actually was a little bit younger than me. And she was very energetic and very positive, and told me that she was going to teach me HR, but she needed me to keep being me. I'm a very outspoken person. I'm not shy. I will go after what I need to go in order to be successful. So I will talk to anybody. I will do whatever it was needed from the job. I did that for 2 years and a half. That was a German company. So I was able to travel with them and for training and different stuff that helped me to develop and polish a little bit more professionally. Then with the time I applied to Walmart, right? Everybody kept telling me like, oh no, it's gonna take you a while. You're probably gonna have to apply 2 to 3 times before you get a job there. Well, I was very excited that at the first application I pushed in, I was hired. So I was, in 2013, I became the HR coordinator for Print Solutions, which is the facility that Walmart have where everything gets printed or created. It's very cool to work in there. I did that for a couple of years, and then I moved with a promotion to the home office. I become the HR coordinator for the Vice President of Human Resources, national and international. And I did that role for 6 months. It was a little bit different for me because I was used to see people and interact with people. And over there, it was more like strategy, planning, and I was not quite ready for that. So I took a different role and went back to work at the distribution center. So my first warehouse with Walmart was DC 1694, and I was the HR office manager. I did that role for 5 years, 5 to 6 years. And it was very exciting because I learned how to train people. I was leading different programs like Mi Futuro, which I did for a couple of years. I did the lead class. I was training some of my peers, creating training, providing training. I was exposed to different organizations because I really like and enjoy working with the community, working with schools, since I'm very thankful for what the schools here in the United States provide to the kids, right? And I say that because I have 2 kids in the system right now. So I'm very happy to do that, and that's something that I aligns with me, that the company mission to be able to help the community and work with the community as well. So I did that role for 5 years, and it was very fulfilling because it helped me to grow professionally, and at the same time helped me to understand how important it is to work hand by hand with the community. And then a year and a half or so, I received my latest promotion. So now I'm currently the HR manager for the transportation office here in Bentonville, Arkansas, where what I do here is I'm over drivers and technicians. I still have a group of hourly associates, which are my administrative support, but I get to see all the drivers that drive the company, specifically the ones located here in Bentonville, and the technicians that work in our units, our trailers, our trucks, and you can name it. I mean, and it's important because in my career, since I started with the warehouse, right, I could see how the warehouse and the transportation office is connected. So it makes a big difference. But that's my career with Walmart. Through that journey, I continue taking different classes, trying to increase my knowledge, like maybe training, maybe diversity, maybe in planning and improving, because as more as you learn, it's not like as more as you know. That's part of it, but as more as you have different views of the same thing that you see every single day. Like, for example, I can sit here in this office today and start working on a strategy, right? Like how I'm going to approach this year. What things did we learn from last year? How we would like to do things differently. And then planning, that applies to planning as well. And that's, as you know, like human resources too. And there's so many things that you have to keep working on updating professionally if that's what you want. However, in this role, I learned how important the driver and technician roles are. We have great units, so they work on very good, well-maintained tracks. But our drivers are so important, and that's why we have specific requirements for them, right? Like they have to have at least 3 years of experience and clean record. And our technicians too. We usually get professionals that can maintain our equipment as it gets utilized with the time or accidents and things like that. So we're very happy to have them. Actually, comparing with the regular population that we have, our hourly associates, a technician it's a higher pay role as an hourly associate, and our drivers have a different higher level of payment because of the job that they do, how important the role is. Because when you think about all the products that go into the warehouse, how will you transport them? You need a driver, and that driver need to have a very well maintained equipment in order to go from point A to point B. So it is everything they do is connected. Everything we do as a company is connected. So that's why we have to be very careful on how we do things. And number one priority for the company has always been our safety of our associates, and we apply safety in everything we do. So, and that's why it's important to put a lot of energy on what you do. When I talk to my kid was a senior last year, she graduated. I always tell her that, everybody these days have so many choices on their careers that it's important to understand what the choices are. And that's why I have the privilege to be talking to you today. Because when I was younger, we didn't have as many choices. And if I didn't have the money in my country, I couldn't even pursue higher education. Now here, there are so many opportunities and organizations like the community colleges, like the technical schools, where you can learn a career in less than 2 years, or less than a year sometimes, depending on what you are studying. And these days, the business in general are needing so much of these skills. It's very interesting how the market have changed to where we are in need of technicians, we are in need of drivers, and those roles are very high pay. Some of our technicians can start at between $20 to $25. So it will depend on, what company you go in and how long has you been working on your role once you graduate. But we usually work with local schools, technical schools, community college, because it's a market that is very, very in demand now. So I chose human resources because I knew early in my life, not my career, my life, that I like to interact with people. I like to attend, to serve, to plan. And it's very interesting because I sit and talk to people about, sometimes personal situations, because I'm here to help them. As a HR manager, I'm kind of like an HR generalist. You might be thinking, what is a generalist, right? A generalist is someone that is familiar with a little bit of everything, like benefits, payroll, and different parts that are part of the human resources. So, job descriptions, training, so you know a little bit of everything. Sometimes you can know one of the things more in depth. But once you're a generalist, you can assist your associates or employees with different questions or concerns, like I said, benefits, payroll, training, leave of absences and stuff like that. So that's what I like on my role. And lately, I'm being very curious on reading more about diversity and inclusion, since our demographic looks completely different to where we were 10 and maybe 20 years ago, right? So it's always important to see how can we all get along together, how can we work together, how can we appreciate our differences and utilize them to actually benefit of us, benefit of what we do, benefit of the company, et cetera, et cetera. So that's why I'm currently working on for myself. And I find it very rewarding, especially because I'm part of the minority group. So I feel that it's important to get to know and understand everybody that works around us, because it could be positively or negatively impactful to our roles if we do not know how to work with that. Miracle, you there?
Yes. Is that the end of your presentation?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so we can go ahead and start Q&A now. We're a little early, but no worries. Just want to remind the teachers to please enter any questions that you guys have into our chat, so I can ask Ms. Giuliana. So you guys can start doing that now. We may not get to all the questions, but we'll do our best, as we do have some questions ourselves.
Veronica, I'm so sorry to interrupt you. Before we start with the questions, I would like to show everybody how to get to the company page and look for different jobs. Will that be okay?
Yes, of course. Go ahead.
I would like to share my screen. Please let me know once you're able to see my screen.
We can see your screen.
Perfect. So I'm going to start typing to get to the page. I want to start from scratch so everybody can see how we get to the Walmart page. I usually type it's Walmart careers.com. And that should populate our web page where we usually go and look for jobs, right? We do have different filters. You can look for location if you would like to relocate, or maybe you ended up relocating because your family. But you can see here we have corporate, we have healthcare if you're interested in working on the pharmacies, or you would like to pursue any kind of medical careers. We got technology. And this specific area right here, distribution, fulfillment, and drivers, is where I'm going to try to focus a little bit more since it's what I'm the most familiar with. This is how the page looks like. I just want to scroll down a little bit. You have some videos that you can look at in order to educate yourself a little more about the jobs that we have. And so you can see here on the top, you have the same filters, right? You can go to all careers based on locations, what the culture of the company is, the impact. We have some students page here. But when you go and look for jobs, so I was telling you earlier that I was the HR office manager for the distribution center. So when you graduate, the distribution center, we can start hiring from 18 years up. You do not need any experience because here we're going to train you on site. We have specific trainers for each job that we have that will train you on whatever job you decide to choose to pursue here with us. So I'm going to click in here. Once I click in here, you can see that we have a link for the distribution centers or fulfillments, a link for drivers and transportation, and a link for fleet management. The fleet management will be for our technicians or mechanics. And then this is for our drivers and for the warehouse. So let me start with the warehouse first. So you can see how that look like. Maybe you're planning to graduate, you don't know what to do yet career-wise. So you can start making some money, right? Let's start working on the money part. Maybe you can start working on your budget, or like budget for school, or just to pay bills until you can decide what would you like to do as a career. So you have here some of the jobs that are very popular for the warehouse. Freight handler is an hourly position. We have an area manager, which is a salary position. Distribution warehouse maintenance, you will need some maintenance experience to apply for any of these. But my advice from the HR standpoint is always read the job descriptions, always. Power equipment, for power equipment, we will train you. We do have trainers that will train you on site here. Service shop preventative maintenance technician. This will be some of the basic roles in the maintenance area for the shop. The shop is where we have our trailers or trucks that receive maintenance. And then the service shop repair technician, right? So always get familiar with the job descriptions. It's very important for you to understand what kind of job are you applying and what the job requires from you. That will be always very important. You can see all the openings. So when we click here, we should be able to see some of the jobs. And you can see here, see, in different states as well. So you can always filter by location right here. Let me just pull this quickly so you can see how it works. If I can type, here we go. Bentonville, Arkansas. We're gonna click search. So this will only pull jobs for Bentonville, Arkansas. Maybe you wanna work in the administration or the administrative part of the business. You can apply here, but then you can see all the openings the company have per the area that you have selected. Then if we go back, we can go back right here. It will be faster. We will go back to the main page to where we were looking at the 3 areas that I'm familiar with and I will be explaining to you today. And hopefully this will help you to create some of the questions that I should be able to answer a little bit later, okay? Then we have the drivers and transportation. So in order to become a driver for Walmart, you have to have at least 3 years of experience and have a clean record of driving. So, and this will explain you, this will show you how it works. We have many of our drivers and hourly associates as well that have been able to promote to management roles. They have been able to grow with the company and actually build a career for themselves. So this is what it looks like. You have the aerospace where you can apply. Once you apply, you're gonna have to filter it by location as well. And the good thing is that we do have videos, some of the videos that can help you understand what a driver does. However, based on the conversation that I have with Jerry Price, we might have some of our technicians or professionals visiting the school with you so you can understand the role a little bit more in depth, which I'm very excited about it. And this is our driver and transportation side of the business, right? And you can see the video here. And then, last but not least, it will be the fleet maintenance. So let's look into see what they have going on here. You have everything that is related to the maintenance. And when I said maintenance, part of the job is mechanics. Is the associates that we have here that fix our trailers, our tracks, the body of this, and et cetera, et cetera. So you can see here, entry technician. So let's say that you are graduating from NTI, right? Or any of the local schools that we have that teach you technical skills. So this will be one of the positions that you could apply for. It will be the entry technician, and let's look at a little more into that. When you click in here is where you should be able to see if it's a full-time or part-time. You have various locations, and then it will tell you a little bit of what it is, the benefits that we do offer, and the duties and responsibilities. So duties and responsibilities is pretty much what it will be expected from the role. And then there are minimum qualifications here. So this is how you need to be looking at the jobs when you apply. I'm only telling you this why. As an HR manager, I have students or recent graduates applying to jobs, and sometimes they don't even remember what job they had applied to. And so if you don't know, I will know less on that. So this is just how the jobs look like, how to look for them, how to filter them. And I just wanted to make sure that we know how the page looks. So what I was saying is, when you apply for the job, make sure you take note. You take note, make sure you remember, this is the title that I'm applying for. This is the facility I'm applying for. Because when we call you, we're gonna call you, hey, how are you, so-and-so? This is Giuliana Tartarini. I'm calling you with Walmart Transportation Office. It is in regards of your application for employment. And then I will tell you, you're applying for a technician, you're applying for a driver. I would like to talk to you a little bit more, before I schedule you for an interview or, whatever the job requires. So at that point, you will need to be like, oh, yes, ma'am, this is for so. Sometimes the answers that I get is like, which job was this again? Can you repeat to me where you're calling me from? So it's always important to look as an applicant prepared. You could apply to 10 different jobs, but if you have your notes with you, you will remember which company and which job are you applying to. It's very important. Something that I like to recommend to students too is sometimes when they have to fill the area where it says experience, I want you to take everything that you have done at school as an experience. If you volunteer for something, that's an experience. If you volunteer for an activity or you did something that supported an organization, that's an experience. And that could be all included under, work experience, because you probably reported to someone. You probably followed someone's instructions, right? So that is part of a job. And it could be considered, volunteering can be considered an experience as well. So never underestimate what you're currently doing at school, because that will be part of your resume and you can include it in your resume.
All right, well, Ms. Juliana, if you're ready, we're gonna go ahead and start the Q&A now.
Perfect. Thank you. I'm ready.
So it looks like there's no questions in the chat. So I'm gonna start with some of my questions. So what would you say, give us a description of a day in the life on your job? So like when you get to work, kind of the motions that you go through.
Okay, perfect. So the first thing I do, and actually I do this before I start my day, before I go to bed, I look at my email just to make sure that there's nothing important requesting my attention to it. Next thing in the morning when I come to work, I look at my email again because I try to start with things that request or need priority. After that, I like to meet with my clerk, which is, you can call her clerk, assistant, and so we can discuss the day. We pull the computer and we start looking at our calendar, and we can start discussing the things that we already have pre-scheduled. And then, then we try to address things as it goes. But I like to look at my calendar so I know who I'm meeting with, what I'm doing, and she will know when I'm going to be working as well, because she does have visibility to my calendar. Then, for example, this week we currently running payroll. So we are working on payroll stuff that we have to take care of, but I like to do it before Friday. Usually we run payrolls every other Saturday, but I like to take care of things in advance. Why? Because in case something is needing extra attention, I will have to take the extra time to take care of situations. When you're working with people, you never know when someone's gonna get injured, when an emergency is gonna happen. So you want to make sure that you that you pre-plan as much as you can, because we cannot pre-plan everything, right? But when you pre-plan as much as you can, you reduce the time or the space for making a mistake, making an error, or meeting something. That's how usually my day goes.
All right. So we have a question from Mr. Griffith. So it says, when you say a driver needs 3 years of experience, are there preferred careers or careers that Walmart will absolutely not hire drivers from?
Ask me that question one more time, please.
So when you say a driver needs 3 years of experience, are there preferred careers that you guys choose from, or are there any careers that Walmart will absolutely not hire drivers from?
We are very inclusive, and as far as you have the driving experience, that's what it matters for us. And I hope I'm answering your question, Mr. Griffith. But we don't, I mean, we only care for you to have the experience needed and to meet the requirements. That and that which industry you coming from is not relevant as far as you meet the requirements. Is that an answer to your question? No, it does not matter. As far as you have the experience, where you came from does not matter. Thank you for your question.
All right, next question. What education or skills are required for your job? How did you acquire the needed education skills? Like, do you have any like degrees or like certifications that you acquired throughout your years through Walmart?
That would be for the HR manager position?
Yes, ma'am, or any of the positions that you've held.
All right. So as I mentioned earlier, when I was describing my personal story, I have an associate in business in my country, right? So, but when I got here, I never did HR my whole life. I never even imagined that I was going to work in HR. I was trained by my manager. I was trained by the person who chose me and hired me. And when she interviewed me, I told her I have no HR experience, but she said that she wanted to hire me because of my personality. In the HR role, it's kind of like, I hate to use this terminology, but it's kind of like the mom of everybody, right? You have to set the rules. You have to make sure that everybody's doing the right stuff. You have to make sure you explain the benefits. You have to make sure they're fully aware of what the company provides to them so they can make better decisions and stuff like that. So with that being said, I did have my associates when I started in the company. But what it helped me to get where I am, Miracle, to be honest with you, is my personality. Because I wanted to learn more and more and more when I was an assistant, so I could grow professionally, because my goal was to make more money and to grow professionally and be bigger and bigger, something that I couldn't accomplish in my country because I didn't have money. I didn't have the resources, and the government or the community does not provide as many commodities that United States provide to their citizens. So when I got here, I started trying to take every single class that I could. And the manager that hired me will take me to classes to develop me too. So that helped a lot. But I will always say, whatever job you have, it's gonna be whatever you want to make it, right? You have to leave your stand. You want to be the best, be the best. So when someone needs something, and I be like, no, go to Miracle because she knows her job. She takes care of you. She has a fantastic customer service. People talks about it. So that's why I purposely did. I was like, I'm going to be the best on this. So I become the best assistant for my boss at a time, to the point that where she will not do things without talking to me and be like, hey, this is what I'm planning to do. What do you think? And it made me feel more important, because at that point I realized that she thought my opinion was valuable to her and the business. But again, just to answer the question, I work on getting more and more knowledge. I got hired for the role, right? Which was like staple, filing, creating reports and stuff. But I wanted to be the best because I wanted to go to the next step, which was management. So I started trying to put more attention to the classes, or, like courses that she will take me or she will enroll me, because I did tell her I want to grow with the company. But when you say those words, it's not just to say it to look good. You have to be intentional and meaningful in your actions.
All right, so we have a question in the chat. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I saw it. I'm sorry. Is that a reference questions?
Yes, so it says, since I'm a high school student, who are good options for me to use as a reference? So I'm assuming that they're meaning when they're going to apply for a job. What kind of references do you guys look for?
Okay. When you're a high school student, I feel that if you have worked on different projects or you have supported different initiatives that the school have, you could utilize the reference of your teachers. Maybe the principal, people that you have worked with, that they know what you were able to do, how do you support different organizations, how do you support community works. Those are the names that you should be listing, because it's not your relative, but it's people that work with you and know about your capacity, your charisma, your willingness to do something. For example, I take very important the name of a teacher as a referral, because I know, first of all, that's not your parent. Second, teachers have a very hard job, which is to teach. And if they are willing to put their name to refer someone, maybe it's because they see value on that person.
So when applying, we have a question. It says, should I ask permission before listing someone as a reference?
Always make sure to say, hey, I'm gonna graduate and I'm gonna start looking for a job. I would love to have you as a reference. Would you be my reference? And they can tell you yes. Why? Because that way they will be aware that there will be a call, and don't ask for permission just to list them, but always keep them updated. Like, hey, I'm applying to this job. You might get a call from Walmart. Or, hey, I'm applying to this job in the X company, someone from the X company might call you. So they are aware that, okay, Walmart might call me asking for references for Miracles, or I'm gonna be ready. I know that, she's applying for that role, and I know what she's looking for in a career.
So when applying for an entry-level position, what is about the average salary that an entry-level position would make, like under you in transportation?
Okay. So I used to run the warehouse, so I'm a little bit familiar with them, and the transportation office, right? Between the warehouse and the transportation, there's a big difference. Hourly associates in the warehouse usually work on the floor. When I said the floor, is the warehouse itself. We have different roles there, like loading, unloading, and stuff like that. Forklift driver. So many of those roles can start at $18 per hour. When I talk about hourly associates on my side of the business, which is transportation, I usually hire driver coordinators. So a driver coordinator is someone that will provide customer service to my drivers, and those roles can start at $18 per hour as well. The difference is, I said start, why? Because it depends on what shift you're gonna come to work. you will start at $18 per hour. But if you're working a second shift or a weekend shift, a shift differential will be added to it. Sorry.
All right. What is the majority education level for your workers? So, like high school, college, what's about the majority of the education level?
You said for my work group here?
Yes, so you or like anyone under you in the transportation department, what is like the average education level for your workers?
It's usually bachelor's. I mean, for hourly associates, it could be high school to bachelor's. Some of them have associates, few of them have bachelor's. The biggest minority have masters, but it depends though, because like I said, sometimes you take an hourly role in order to create a career path and then move forward, right? So if you come to work to me and you have a master's, I know that you just needed an opportunity to get into the company, that you might not stay with me forever. So my role will be to support you and start helping you. Okay, Miracle, what can I do for you? What is your next step? Have you thought about that? I will do that at any level, but it all depends what do you want to do, because I had someone that worked under me a while ago, and I saw in this person the potential to become a manager, right? To keep growing with the company. But this person don't want it to, because she was a little bit shy. She don't like to talk in front of crowds and stuff like that. And it's completely understandable, because not everybody likes to talk in front of crowds. Not everybody likes to have, difficult conversations or have like a training sessions and stuff like that. So it will be on what do you want to do, that I will be here to support you. That's what my role pretty much does as well.
All right, so a question here, about how many people are you over in the HR department?
In this side of the business, in transportation, I will say around 480 associates. When I was in the warehouse side, it was 1,100 associates at the time.
Is it hard to manage that many people, to oversee 400 to 1,100 different people?
It's very different because the business varies. For example, in the warehouse side, I have a peer. We were 2 HR office managers. And then we both have 4 clerks that help us with the day-to-day paperwork and stuff like that. On top of that, on top of us, we have an HR manager that we report to. So I will say that it could get very busy sometimes depending on the season. But here in transportation, it might sound a little bit less on the headcount part. However, the support is greater because my associates are not on site with me, right? My drivers are all over the place. So I have to make sure that I cater the benefits and services and how I provide or serve them to their needs and based on the job that they're executing.
All right, so we have another question from Mr. Griffith. It says, what types of general questions do you ask for new recruits? For example, where do you see yourself in 5 years, etc.?
Very good question. Most of the questions that we have are behavioral. So how do you work well with other people? What was the last time that you worked with someone or you helped someone? And beside the question, you have to be able to answer in a way that I can see what the situation was, what your role was, and what was the end result. So sometimes what happens with recent graduates is that they will get very nervous. So let me walk you through my last interview I had here a couple of weeks ago. I have a recent graduate from a technical school that he come and sit down like this. And so I feel a little bit curious on why he was not doing eye contact. Now, for everybody listening to this, eye contact is very important. And so I took the time to ask, I introduced myself. I introduced the other 2 leaders sitting with me. And then I asked him to please introduce himself. I could tell he was very nervous. But how do you treat yourself and how do you manage yourself is very important on an interview, right? So he struggles providing an answer. He took a lot of time, and our interviews are not timed. So you can take your time thinking or answering questions. But it was difficult because he continued not doing eye contact. So he keeps sitting and answering like this. So my advice, my 2 cents here will be, if you need an accommodation, make sure you request it before the interview. If you don't, make sure that when you enter the room, you feel relaxed, you feel distressed. I always like to say, when you go to an interview, the worst thing that can happen is like you don't get the job, so you keep applying and get to another role, right? But when you go to an interview, make sure that you let the people know who are you, what your interest is, what would you like to do if you get hired. And you always need to do eye contact with the people that is sitting as part of the interview. It is very important. Make sure that you dress casually, like closed toes, no sandals, that you look presentable, because that first interview, first interaction you're gonna have with the hiring people or the hiring panel will be very important, and sometimes it definite to make a decision. So be prepared to answer, but most of the answers are behavioral. So when I was applying to Walmart, right, my first role as an HR clerk, I researched the company. I went to Google and I started researching like Walmart interviews. And then I would start looking for Walmart questions for HR clerk, because I knew the title that I was applying to. So I started researching what kind of questions they will get. So I was able to find some of the questions and some of the answers through Google. And I was able to know what Walmart was, how many countries the company was, and what the company do, how much revenue the company did per year, and little things like that that will actually increase your knowledge on what kind of company you're applying to. It's very important to know that.
All right, so another question here. It says, do you interview recruits on your own, or is there a panel of managers doing the interview? Or to add on to that, does it depend on the position? So higher level positions, are there more of you in an interview? And then entry level, is it only you? How would that work?
In all interviews, I'm always present, no matter what level. Now, I always get as a panel of interviewers, it will be me, the hiring manager, or the operations manager. And if they have a layer of leaders under them, it could be the operations manager and the area manager. So it will be around 2 to 3 people. It depends on what the role is and who owns that role.
All right, so we're gonna wrap up here in a couple minutes. I just have one last question for you. What advice would you give to students that struggle with English, or if English isn't their first language, like what you went through when you first came into Walmart? What advice would you give to them when they're looking for corporate positions like you?
All right. You guys are gonna believe this is silly, but I will say, laugh at yourself. I took very serious everything. And sometimes I will mispronounce something and I will feel extremely embarrassed. I didn't want to talk anymore. The ESL classes helped me a lot, but I'm not perfect and I will never be. At the beginning, when I moved to the United States, I hated my accent because I felt that people see me differently. I'm emotional now. But I felt that people couldn't see my value because they could not oversee or couldn't get over my accent. And I was thinking all the time, I had so much to give. I'm smart, I'm intelligent, I can learn that. But with the time, I own it. I was thinking, you know what? I can expect people to learn who I am if I don't show it, because I'm shy, because I don't want to talk, because I don't want people to make fun of me, right? So when I will mispronounce something, I will laugh at it. And sometimes I'll make sure I was the first one laughing. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. I can't believe I said this. Actually, this is what I meant to say. And then people felt more comfortable sometimes saying, oh, I know what you're talking about, or I know what you mean, because sometimes it's just a mispronunciation of a letter or like a word that you don't mean to, or like, for example, let me give you an example. I always struggle saying thank you, because in the school over there, they don't teach you to the TH, how to use the TH, right? To say thank you, or Thornton, or like Thorn and stuff like that. So I always said thank you. And it took me a while to be able to pronounce. There's people that's gonna be rude to you and you won't be able to avoid them. They might make fun of you, but that will depend on who they are, and don't let that impact who you are and why you're here and what you're meant to do. Remember that nobody can limit you on what you do except yourself. Today, I sometimes laugh with my team because yes, there are words that I might not be 100% familiar that I will mispronounce, and I laugh with them. And it becomes easier on me because when I was taking everything very serious, it didn't help me. It didn't help anybody. And it didn't help me to show them my skills, my knowledge on how I could be helpful to the business, right? Once you learn who you are, what do you want? And yes, you're bilingual. Guess what? Your brain functions in 2 different languages. Own it, laugh at it, and just keep moving because that's the only thing we are to do here. Keep moving, keep growing. The only thing that can happen is someone laugh at it. So what? You're going to continue being bilingual. You're going to continue being utilized for different things, like translation, helping to speak and stuff like that. So that's something that I was ashamed many, many, many years ago when I got to this country. But with the time, I realized and I learned that it's part of who I am. Part of who I am. I'm very proud of who I am, proud of how far I have got from Browns or cleaning houses. Now I'm part of a very important company in the area, not just in the area, but in the country and internationally. But it took a lot of effort. I have to work for it. So don't let your accent, don't let your insecurities stop you. Learn who they are, strengthen them, and keep moving forward. Thank you so much for the time today. I feel very special that I had the opportunity to talk to all of you. And if you ever need something, Miss Jerry Price have my information. I will be more than happy to help as much as I can. Thank you, Miracle.
Thank you, Giuliana. We really appreciate you coming and speaking to us today. If the teachers would, please turn on your mics and give Ms. Giuliana a round of applause.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
All right, teachers, looks like our breakout room is up, so you guys are dismissed.